class. I wanted to make a video from a homework example here of finding the measures of central tendency when given some raw data. Again, the measures of central tendency are the mean, median, mode, and midrange. So here we have a small data set, and they've already sorted the data from small to high. Typically, that's something you'd have to do for yourself or using some software like Excel or a graphing calculator in statistics mode. And that sorting is really important if you're looking to find the median. But for the rest of them, you could actually dive right in. So for the mean, for example, I'll use blue for that. We remember mean is a fancy way of saying the average of your data. And so in this case, we need to find the average by taking the sum of all the data. Here, notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to make a little note. And the number of items in the sample of data here is 9. So in those 9 items, I'm going to add them up and divide by the total. In other words, the symbol here is sigma, means sum or add up. The sum of the data values, we usually use x for each data value, they're separate x values, divided by the total number of items, the sample size. So in this case, n is 9. So I need to take the calculator or by hand add 11 plus 11 plus 12 plus 13 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 16 plus 27. Go ahead and take a second to do that if you haven't already. Did you get 135? Great. Now divide 135 by 9 since there are 9 items in the set. Did you get 15? Awesome. Now sometimes you'll get a decimal here, and the rule of thumb is to round to one more decimal place than the data itself. So since the data was 0.0 in each case, you could say 0.00, for example, just to be extra careful, or 15 is sufficient. So the average of this sample would be the mean, known as 15. Sometimes you'll see us use the symbol X bar if it was a sample of 9 items, and this is the sample mean. But that's all we were asked to find, and we've done it. Okay, now to find the median, what we first want to notice is how many items are there again? 9. Now notice 9 is an odd number. If this was an even number, it's a little more difficult. You'd actually need to find the 2 middle values and then take their average after you've sorted the data. So whenever you're talking about median, remember you have to sort from low to high first. Okay, so they've already pre-done that for us. 11, 11, 12, 13, 15, 15, 15, 16, 27. Since there's an odd number, we can simply say, what is half of 9? 4.5. So go to 4. If you go 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop, and then go 4 afterwards, you have your median right in the middle, and that would be 15, or 15.0 or 0. Right? It turns out in this case, both measures of central tendency, the mean and the median, are the same. Okay, that's pretty rare when that happens, but when all measures of central tendency line up, that's actually going to be a bell curve or normal distribution. So we'll talk more about that in future sections and videos. Let's talk about the mode here. The mode is a little bit different than the rest. There's no big formula here, but what we do need to notice is it's the most frequent. The most frequent or most popular data value. So a lot of people remember that with the MO, most, okay? So sometimes there is no mode. For example, if every single item here appeared one time, then there would be no mode. In order for there to be a mode, there needs to be at least one value that appears more than the rest. And so we notice here that there is a value 11 that appears twice. There's a value 15 that appears 3 times. And there's a value, nope, no other values appear more than once. So if no values appear more than once, we'd say there is no mode. If multiple values appear more than once, you ask yourself, is there a tie or is there a clear winner? In this case, there's not a tie because there's 3 of 15 and only 2 of 11. So the winner is clearly 15 or 15.0 or 50.00. Once again, this is a pretty cool situation. This is very rare when all 3 phenomenon, mean, median, and mode, are the same. Okay, so you could technically have 2 modes. For example, if there were 3 11s, they'd be tied, and we'd say this is bimodal, or 3 modes, trimodal, or even 4 or 5 or more modes. But in this case, there's just one mode, 15, that beats the rest. Finally, the mid-range is called that because you're trying to estimate what's happening in the middle of the data, but by looking at the range of numbers. So you're simply looking at the smallest number and the largest number. and you're saying what is the average of these two numbers in order to estimate what's happening in the middle. So in order to find this mid-range, you really take the low value, the lowest value, plus the highest value, and take their average. The average of two items is the sum of those items divided by the number of them, too. So this is the average. In other words, it's the average of your extreme values. So the average of the extremes, the lowest plus the highest divided by 2. So let's go ahead and erase L and replace it with the lowest value, which was 11. And let's replace H and replace that with the highest value of 27. And when I add 11 and 27, I get 39. That's right. I said 39, I meant 38. I don't know why I said that. 38. And again, you divide 38 by 2, and what do you get? That's right. You get a whopping 19, don't you? Well, that's interesting. 19 or 19.0 or 19.00. Okay, that would be our mid-range. So notice here, that's the one that's a little bit different than the rest in this case because it only had to do with the extreme values and what their average was. So it's not really the best estimate of what's happening in the middle. In fact, which of these do you think is always going to be the best estimate of what is happening in the center or the middle of your data set? If you said median, you would be correct. That is always going to be the best measure of central tendency, the median. And that's why, for example, when you hear about housing prices in a certain area, they'll talk about the median housing price instead of the average, because the average could be weighted up or weighted down based on foreclosures being really, really affordable or based on multi-million-dollar homes. But if you want to know where most people's housing is, you would want to zoom in the middle, and that would be the median. And similarly, when I give test grades, you'll often notice I talk about the median for that reason, just in case there was someone who forgot to take the test, and that 0% could bring the whole average down, whereas the median is just looking straight at the center. Again, the mode is also helpful, but it's really more of a popularity contest, which data value appears most common, and that could have appeared in the middle, but it also could have appeared at different parts of the data, so that's not terribly helpful. The mean is probably the second best indicator of the center, but again, it can be skewed up or down by extreme values. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me by email. Otherwise, happy practicing, and remember, math is not a spectator sport. I'll see you next time.